Lastly, for our news is a really, really surprising one, just because I never thought this movie would actually get a sequel, and that is Gavin O'Connor's The Accountant, starring Ben Affleck, is
Mm,
slated to be getting a sequel. Now, Josh highly recommended this movie to me a while back, and I finally saw it, and it was fine. It was average. I think my
yeah.
expectations were a little too high just because I love Gavin O'Connor. Warrior is one of my favorite movies of all time. We will always rave about how much we love that movie here on the podcast. I believe he also did Miracle, which I also really, really enjoy.
Hmm.
And I love Ben Affleck. I thought this movie was whatever. I thought it was kind of dull, not everyone's best foot forward. I thought the brother relationship just felt really kind of just tacked on at the last minute. Like, it
Hmm.
felt like whatever Gavin O'Connor's going through in his personal life, he just really has a thing for brothers fighting against each other. And I don't think the brother dynamic worked in this nearly as well as it did in Warrior. There's a lot of different aspects to this that I think were interesting on paper, but I don't think necessarily worked too well in the movie. And that's why I think a sequel would be a good idea. Flesh this out a
Mm.
little more. Actually, I wouldn't have done a sequel. I would have done a TV show, like an HBO type show. If HBO was doing a
Mm.
series of this, of the story of Ben Affleck's accountant on a day-to-day basis, for those that don't know, he's is it high functioning autism.
Hmm.
Um, so he's really, really good with numbers, but also he's very, very dangerous. So basically, picture a nerdy John Wick, except not as
Yeah.
cool as John Wick. Basically, um, I think that would lend itself better to a series than a movie. That being said, I'm a shill for Gavin O'Connor. You tell me he's doing anything, then I'm going to be interested. I'm still sad that he
Yeah.
left the Suicide Squad, because as much as I love what James Gunn did with it, I was very curious to see what Gavin O'Connor was going to do with it too. Josh, as someone that's more of a fan of The Accountant than I was, does the prospect of a sequel interest you, or are you just kind of whatever?
Yeah, sure. uh, yeah, it's okay, sure. Why not? I don't see why not. I'm always down for more action movies, especially something that's a little bit more unique, like The Accountant is. Like the first one is a little dull, and there's not a lot of stuff that works too great. But I like the idea, and I like the accountant character himself. Um, so I wouldn't mind seeing another one, seeing what we can do with it. I mean, if anything, John Wick has proved that your second outing can be a better outing too. Like you can get better with every movie. You don't have to get worse. So
Well,
who knows?
I will say though that John Wick started off on a better foot. Like, there's no bad
That's
John Wick movie.
that's
They just kind of keep building on and improving upon
that's fair.
each other. The first John Wick, I think, is better than the first Accountant. But I will agree with you. I think that the lore and the universe that they set up is interesting in the Accountant. Not nearly as interesting as John Wick, but that's just because John Wick has done such a fascinating
Hmm.
job with its lore. But yeah, this is a very different type of action movie that I think could be interesting to explore more, even if the first one didn't necessarily connect super well with me. I think the cast is interesting. How much of the cast do you think would come back for a second one? Obviously, Ben Affleck would probably come back. Do you see both J.K. Simmons and John Bernthal, or do you see their parts kind of being done with?
I don't know. I mean, I'll say J.K. Simmons just because I love seeing him in anything. Um,
Yeah.
if he's not busy doing other things. But
Commissioner Gordon.
Commissioner Gordon. Yeah,
Whiplash
I don't
2.
know.
Whiplashed.
Stop.
You'll be rushed and
Stop.
you will be dragged.
So anyway, yeah, it's fine. J.K. Simmons can come back. I don't care.
Starring the Miles Bank Teller.
Oh. Watch them bring Matt Damon, but like it's his character from Good Will Hunting.
You joke. You joke. But I would pay good money to see a Goodwill Hunting and the Accountant crossover. Although Ben Affleck is
It,
in Goodwill Hunting,
yeah, it
so
would
that
really
doesn't really
work.
work unless Ben Affleck like kills the other bum Ben Affleck, bum Affleck. Like, that could be interesting. Or the Accountant and Jason Bourne crossover.
Yeah, I'm
Ooh,
here for
ooh,
it.
better
Whatever.
yet, better yet, Ben Affleck was the accountant for Treadstone. He was the bookkeeper for Treadstone in the Bourne movies. Like he's
Let it die. Let that series die. It's okay. You got 3 really solid movies and Legacy. Four pretty solid movies and Legacy. So we really
What's Legacy?
don't need.
What's the Bourne Legacy?
That's the one that doesn't have Matt Damon for some
The
reason.
one that doesn't exist, that they never made?
Look, I've been
The
saying
one that has Oscar Isaac in it?
Yeah, and Jeremy Renner.
Oscar Isaac, as much as I love him, has been in some real bad movies.
He has. He's been trying.